first of all, I just want to say thank you for everyone for getting up so early in the morning to come out and hear me speak. I know mornings can be tough. They are for me anyway, so I appreciate you guys all coming out this morning. I'm here to talk about generating publicity today, and I'm by no means an expert in publicity. The only background I have in practical theory is what I learned at university, but over the last 4 years in business, I have learned some practical applications of how to go about generating publicity. So I'm kind of just here today to tell you about some of the things that I've learned and share some of the tidbits of information of how you guys can go away from today and try to start creating your own publicity for your business. So Zlatan kind of got into my background of how I got into business for myself. I did study business administration at the University of Regina here and specialized in marketing, and went on to work for Women Entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan while starting my jewelry business on the side. I just started Hillberg & Burke basically as a hobby. It was something that I was just sort of doing for friends and family. And some of my friends encouraged me to start selling the product. And so I went to a local sale here in town and I sold some of my jewelry. And I was so busy with orders that it took me the next 3 weeks to fill all those orders. And that was kind of the paradigm shift for me to go from this is a hobby to this could actually be a viable business. And from there I started my first company, which was called Urban Pearl Accessories, and that evolved into what it is today, which is Hillberg & Burke. Today I now employ full-time and 1 part-time staff in Canada and a full-time staff overseas as well. And I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about the publicity that I've generated, both from going down to the Oscars and Dragon's Den, and how that's resulted and turned into sales in my company. So the first thing that I'm going to touch on is the definition of publicity. Now, what publicity is and how it differs from marketing is publicity is non-paid. It's media and advertising that you generate when you're not actually paying for it. And it's really great on one hand because publicity is, and sorry, my slides kind of got messed up when I transferred them over to the other computer, but under publicity it says that it's free, so you don't have to pay for it. It commands more attention from the public than paid advertising does. You guys probably know yourself that when you're flipping through the leader post, you're much more likely to read an article about somebody than actually read their advertisement. And so if you can generate publicity for your company, it just gives you that much more credibility in the reader's eyes. The other thing that's cool about publicity is that it usually tells the story in the background about whatever it is that you're trying to get across to the public. Now, on the other hand, publicity, there's no control over how it comes out to the media. You can tell them your story, but most of the time you don't have an opportunity to actually see the final product before it goes to print. So I guess on the pros for the advertising side, the good things about it are you're able to control the content. You're able to control the audience that it goes out to. You can choose when it comes out, and you have complete control over the end result. Now, I'm not going to get into today some of the things that you need to think about, but I would suggest that if any of you are in the media as often as I am, or trying to get into the media more often, that you take a media course just to learn the basics of the things that you should be saying. And some of the basics are you need to first think about the key message and the core message that you want to get across whenever you're doing a media interview. And the second thing is that you need to drive the questions that they're asking you. So they might ask you something that you don't want to talk about. You need to structure your answers so that you get away from their question and get back to what your core message is. So really the basic thing for going into a media interview is making sure that you're prepared for it and that you've got your 3 key points that you want to get across. So for example, when I'm going into an interview, if I was going into an interview right now, what I would want to get across is I'd want to talk about the fact that we just launched a new a new fall collection and where it's available, and talk a little bit about our showroom. And I'd probably also want to talk about some of the cool things that have happened in my business recently. I just won a North America-wide entrepreneurial award, and I won a trip to the Bahamas. So I'd want to somehow get that in there, but they wouldn't know about it, so they wouldn't know to ask me. So I'd have to restructure their answers to get my agenda across. So that's just something to keep in mind, and I definitely recommend researching a little bit more into a media course that you can take, and there's all kinds of media courses that are available through SciS and the university. So the next thing you're going to want to think about is what's your story? And I know from talking to a lot of entrepreneurs that they always say, Rachel, what you're doing in business is so exciting. It's such a glamorous industry. and I've got no story to tell or to pitch to the media. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Every single entrepreneur has a story about how they got into business, what they're doing that's cool and exciting, a new product line that they're launching, innovation that they're developing within their company, something that they're a unique product in an unlikely industry. I know you guys all have a unique story. The VPS Pro, for example, I know that you guys are developing something that's very innovative, very cutting edge, and it's a really cool story, and I'm sure you probably generated media from the company. But if you haven't, it's something that's really cool that the media would definitely pick up on. But what you have to first ask yourself is what's going to be the hook between your story and the media? Because the media want to know, they want to have a hook that they can pitch to their audience. And every audience that they take their story to is going to have a different angle. So depending on who you're pitching your story to, you need to think of what the hook is. You don't have to have an Oscar opportunity to do a press release and to send it out to the media. I recommend that you send a press release every time you're doing something that's kind of cool and new and exciting in your business. You never know when the media is going to have a slow day for news, and they're going to be like scrounging for stories to pick up on. So one rule is don't bombard the media with press releases every single day for every little thing that you do. But on the other hand, don't be afraid to toot your own horn, write a press release, and send it out. But if you're planning to do the press release yourself, you definitely need to think, what is the hook? How can I get the media interested in my story? Is it a local angle? Is it something that's going to be potentially picked up on a national level? And then write your press release around the hook that you're trying to promote to the media. Some of the do's and don'ts of contacting the media and getting your story picked up is the first thing that you need to do is you need to meet the media. You have to get out to events and start networking and get to know them and become friends with them. And then collect their business card and start a database with their business card. One thing that I do is I travel all over Canada and meet media at all kinds of different events. And I subcategorize my media into whether it's newspaper, fashion magazines, and then Western Canadian magazines or Eastern Canadian, or whether they're in the TV industry. And then depending on what my media or my press release is, I might just send it to a few specific people. If it's more geared towards a fashion article, I would send it just to the fashion magazines. But if it's something like Dragon's Den that I think all the media would be interested in, I would shoot it off to all of my people. Another thing to keep in mind is that you want to make sure that your press release is tailored to your market. So I'm going to use my Dragon's Den press release as an example. When I did the press release for that, we did it all across Canada. But for the Western Canadian market, and specifically just for Saskatchewan, we tailored it, like the title was Saskatchewan Girl Makes It Onto Dragon's Den. And then for the rest of and then we wrote the whole press release as, you know, Rachel Melky, local girl, blah, 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 promoting the fact that it's like a local success story. Now the rest of Canada doesn't care that I'm from Saskatchewan. So what we had to do for the rest of Canada was write it so that they would be interested in the story, not from the Saskatchewan angle, but just from the fact that I was a jewelry designer that got called down to the Oscars, and now I've made it onto Dragon's Den. And it's a little bit of a more difficult pitch when you're trying to pitch it to all of Canada. And another thing that I would suggest is when you've got a big Oscar opportunity in your own business that you're pitching to the media, something that you really want to keep in mind is hiring a professional company to do it. I think that you can work with a professional company to get the basics of doing a media release so that on a monthly basis you can revamp them yourselves and send them out as small things happen. But when you have a big opportunity in your business, you have to pay a professional to do it, because they're really what the professionals, what you're paying them to do is, besides writing just an awesome press release for you, they also have the established connections already. And it's easy for them to just pick up the phone and say, hey, it's blah, blah, blah from whatever PR company. I've got this great story, boom, and they send it out. And they've already got that established connection. For you to go about doing that and without people knowing who you are, it's a little bit more difficult. I have the, I guess, advantage of knowing a lot of the media already and having a lot of them written stories on me. So when I send out a press release, they already know who I am. But when you're just getting started, you might want to consider working with a PR company. And it can be relatively inexpensive to get them to write a press release and send it out.